I would say my Jewish identity connects me to the Israeli side of the conflict, but I try to keep myself as a third-party perspective.
Not personally, but I've heard a lot about it.
I'm ethnically Jewish, which makes me somehow connected to Zionism, kind of as a movement, because it's the movement for a Jewish state, but not any personal connection. I don't have any family there. I don't have any people who I know really there.
Yes, I have some, I think, semi-distant family that lives in Israel on my mom's side, but besides that, no, I don't really have any connections.
No. Actually, my father, I believe, is an Israeli citizen because he was born and raised in Eastern Soviet bloc Europe, and him and his family immigrated to Israel after all those conflicts ended because they couldn't really stay where they were anymore.
So both of my grandparents on my father's side were Holocaust survivors, and then my grandfather, after World War II, he went on to become a member of the Irgun, which was a radical Israeli, well, not Israeli, but a radical Jewish group that kind of fought for the Israeli state. They were radical Zionists.
No.
I have not in school or outside of school. I've not.
I haven't had a class that studied as part of the course, but I have especially after assemblies in the past, teachers have taken a day to kind of just go over the basics of the conflict. I remember my ethics teacher did that in freshman year. Otherwise, mostly it's been through friends or through research.
In an organized way. I mean, we've had the Israel-Palestine assembly before here at school, but that wasn't, that was just kind of 45 minutes of student speeches. I've done some of my own research, but not extensive research whatsoever.
I'm currently in the Modern Middle East elective that Miss Drowan's running, and then beyond that, in Hebrew school, when I was really young, they talked about it a little bit, but most of my information kind of comes from the media.
I learned about it through my temple. I meet with my rabbi consistently, but I learned about it first this year in school in my Modern Middle East class.
Yes and no. I think we talk about it to a certain extent. We've had an assembly on it, but in the assembly that we had on it, I think for the first time I realized how unfreely we talk about it, because there was a lot of fear about kind of saying the wrong thing. But I think that's present in every conversation that we have here. I don't know if that's really limited to this, but we also don't have that many conversations about religion specifically, and I think we tie religion and this conflict together when maybe those aren't the only two things at play.
Well, I think that Fieldson doesn't really talk about religion, and it's kind of a taboo statement or a taboo conversation, and there are many connections between religion and the Israel-Palestine conflict, so that makes it a little more complex, and why we don't discuss it, but it's definitely a conversation that we should have.
I would say that both sides are intolerant of the other side, and people tend to feel they're being alienated, people who are either pro-Palestinian or pro-Israel. There's some people who won't even have a discussion with you if you are willing to entertain other thoughts. People have their minds set before they even have a discussion.
I do not. I feel like if we do talk about it, it is fairly one-sided, and then when we do talk about it, it's not nearly to the same level of detail that it deserves, because it's a really complex issue, dating back all the way to World War I, and people don't really even know that. And earlier. I think that more could be done at Fieldson to talk about it.
I just don't think we discuss it very much, and I think that if we do discuss it, there's just a lot of baggage that comes with it, because there are so many Jewish kids at the school who feel like they have a strong connection to Israel.
2 years ago we had an assembly about this, and just from that assembly I didn't really get
much of a feel of like, not necessarily pro-Palestine, but just like support for like the Palestinian view. I saw a lot of support for the Israeli view, I guess just naturally. So like that was a little concerning. Yeah.
I think that because a lot of people at Palestine have like very strong personal investment in the conflict, that like we often can't really discuss it freely and fairly. In my experience, people tend to get really emotional very fast, which can sometimes make it difficult to have like an unbiased conversation.
If I had an opinion,
I think I am less fearful now than I used to be. But still in some like situations I might like downplay my opinion or just like be a little bit hesitant to share my opinion in all cases.
I would say truthfully yes, and I know it's not PC, but like being a Jew, I feel like people don't really want to hear what I have to say in connection with my Jewish identity. I don't think there's many people in the school who are really connected to their Jewish identity. But when they are, they're told not to talk as much about it.
I mean, I'm for the two-state solution, which I think most people are, to my knowledge. But which I feel like is not a dangerous side to take. I feel like if anything, that's like the safest route one could take. So I guess in that scenario or that case, I'm not afraid for sharing my opinion.
No, I think it would be good to discuss it more frequently, but I also think that we shouldn't limit it to this because you run the risk of missing a lot of the, I guess, like if we talk about Israel and Palestine, then we have to talk about the rest of the Middle East in an open and honest way because those two things are very connected. It's not just the West and it's not just the Middle East. It's kind of when those two things come together and try and stay.
Yes, because not in my section, but in the other section of modern Middle East, a couple of my friends have said that when they did talk about Israel, or the Israel-Palestine conflict, it quickly got a little anti-Semitic. People were saying things like, oh, how could the Jews want that much land? They're so greedy, not really knowing that like the greedy Jew was a thing that Hitler used in World War II as like, a means for kind of pushing forward the extermination.
I would say that if we were to do it, people would have to really be willing to hear the other side or just hear anything other than they think they know. Because the truth is, with the exception of a few kids in our school, people are just kind of saying what their parents, like what they hear their parents say at the dinner table, and they don't even substantiate that with like research of their own.
I don't.